Providence big man Bryce Hopkins is now St. John's big man Bryce Hopkins. He committed to the Red Storm, picked them over Georgetown. Was a battle between St. John's and Georgetown once he hit the portal. Only played in 3 games for the Friars this past season. He was recovered from a torn ACL he suffered last season, or I guess 2 seasons ago now, since Providence season is over. Only played 14 games before suffering that injury, but go back to the 2022-2023 season and even the first part of the 23-24 season, he was one of the very best big men in the country, Dion. And the 3 games he did play this past season, averaged 17, 7.7 boards, and 3 assists. His versatility is stellar. You now pair him with Zubi Ejiofor in St. John's front court. After the commitment, Ripatino said that Hopkins' commitment, quote, fills the void, end quote, that was left by RJ Lewis leaving. Different players, obviously, but how big of a deal is this for St. John's to get somebody like Bryce Hopkins?
I think it's a really big deal, assuming he's healthy. That's the ultimate question mark, right? And that's been the question mark the last 2 years at Providence, ultimately. But given his health, he's a near 40% three-point shooter, playing the power forward position. He rebounds the ball well. He's not afraid to pass the ball, and he scores around the basket easily as well. Like this is an all-around guy. Um, that it plays a great brand of basketball that fits in well with St. John's. But ultimately, I mean, the kid played 3 games last year, 14 the year before. Does he fill the void of RJ Lewis? Yes, but he has to be there to fill the void too.
I think, yeah, I think they're different players, right? Because Hopkins, while he can do some perimeter stuff, is much more post oriented. Like the idea of him and Ejiofor together, to me, they could be the best front court duo in the country next season if Bryce Hopkins is healthy. There was some thought, and there's some rumors, some reckless speculation that he was not that he was healthy and sitting out, but that he was really not like forcing things and putting himself over everything, especially given the way Providence season had gone to make sure he got an extra year of eligibility, which can't fault a guy for looking out for himself after recovering from torn ACL. But if that's the case, I do not have the overarching health concerns because he will have been at the start of next season almost 2 years out from the time he tore his ACL, which is about the time you return back to normal or as close to normal as you're going to be. So if you do get a healthy Bryce Hopkins, who is that compared with what we already know of Zubi for, and if there's any development this offseason, like that's a duo that's going to be really, really dangerous. You have to pair that with some guard play for St. John's. Bryce Hopkins' ability to stretch the floor with the way H4 dominates inside, it feels like it's a really good fit for what Repetino wants to do.
What I like about it is I actually think the guy that fills RJ Lewis's void truly is Seinon, who's on the way. No idea if I'm saying his last name correctly, but I love that dude's game. I think he's a bucket and a half, and I think going into a sophomore year in a system where you know, listen, Arizona State was a mess last year. There's just no way around it. Going into a system with a little bit more structure, I think you're going to see him like elevate his game a lot. I think that's an NBA dude, and I think you combine that with Bryce Hopkins. I kind of look at it like maybe neither one of them is going to win the Big East Player of the Year the way RJ Lewis did. Both of them are better than Kadari Richmond, though. So the combination of those two fills the void of Kadari and RJ combined, at least. And then you factor in some more guard play. It does kind of suck that RJ Lewis seemingly is for sure gone. However, like I'm no NBA scout, I'm no NBA GM. If I'm the team, get started now because I think you're going to have a situation eerily similar to, and I mean this with all due respect, Coleman. I think you're a dog, but like where Coleman came out and said because of the draft process, I was behind on the portal. I think RJ Lewis might be a similar situation where by the time he pulls back from the draft and decides to come back to college, it might be a little bit too far gone. If I'm a team, I'm saving a little resources, saving a roster spot for RJ. I think you might like end up, you swing and a miss on everybody, then you hit the home run down the line. So it kind of sucks that he's already like for sure gone from St. John's. But with Bryce Hopkins' commit, um, Card and I did a video that'll be on the channel on the full episode tomorrow about preseason top five. St. John's is firmly in that mix, like firmly in that mix.
With Hopkins, absolutely. I think the Lewis thing is interesting because if you had Sanan, Lewis, Hopkins, Ejiofor, you're talking about like a preseason number one caliber type team. And so while there is still the chance, I think he comes back until he commits somewhere else. I think there's, I think that's like 0.00001% chance that he comes back because it very much seemed like Rick Pitino kicked him out or was basically like there was a mutual understanding that he was not welcome there anymore or that he was going to be playing somewhere else next season. Hopkins, helps bring the scoring. Again, St. John's going to look very different than they did a year ago. They were a very perimeter-oriented team last year, much four in the middle. I think it's going to be much more front court oriented, which, given the way Rick Pitino wants to play around the basket and be physical, I think that checks out. Rick Pitino has won every single way there is to win in the game of basketball at every level of basketball. He's going to find a way for Hopkins and Etchafor to dominate together. Um, from the Georgetown side of things, you lose out on this. What does that say about where Georgetown is at right now? How big of a blow is this to the Hoyas?
I mean, it's definitely a blow. I don't know if it says anything about them. Like, if you told me Georgetown versus St. John's and just about anything, I'm taking St. John's. I mean, I'm sure Georgetown has some stuff on St. John's, but when it comes to basketball, they don't. Um, Cooley got to go back to Providence, man. Like, go back to Providence, Cooley. Like, I miss that Cooley at Providence.
I do wonder if if he thought the Georgetown deal would be easier than it has turned out to be. Not that he thought it was going to be easy, but that he thought it would be a little bit easier. Now you hope you get Sorber back because I think this kind of elevates that need. But yeah, I think a good win for St. John's obviously to one keep him from going to Georgetown, but number two add him to your roster and potentially have the best front court duo in the country. Not a bad deal.
It is March, and that means that March Madness is upon us. And if you are looking for a place to play, Underdog Fantasy has you covered. Sign up and deposit using code SLEEPERS, that's code SLEEPERS, to receive up to $1,000 in bonus credit plus a free pick. Head over to Underdog Fantasy today and use promo code SLEEPERS to take advantage of this amazing offer.